Welcome to Trusting After Trauma, Season 5, Finding Freedom After Narcissistic Abuse. I'm your host, Pi Venus Winslow. Our goal is to provide information and resources to educate and empower viewers to recover from childhood trauma and narcissistic abuse so they can reclaim their health, happiness, and personal power. Our speakers specialize in supporting others through their unique expertise and offer valuable insights, tools, and inspiration for viewers to find the courage and motivation to change their lives. I'm honored to have Simon Borg-Olivier here with us today. Simon Borg-Olivier has practiced traditional posture, movement, breathing, and mental control for 50 years. He has been teaching for over 40 years and has been a registered physiotherapist for 25 years. Simon works as a research scientist and a university lecturer. He has been regularly invited to teach about lifestyle, posture, movement, breathing, and meditation at conferences, festivals, and intensive teacher training courses internationally since 1990. He is also co-director of Yoga Synergy, one of Australia's oldest and most respected yoga schools. Yoga Synergy has a style based on a deep understanding of modern medical science and traditional forms of exercise and therapy worldwide. Simon has studied with great traditional masters from Tibet, Japan, India, and China. Along with his business partner and fellow physiotherapist, Bianca Machlis, Simon has co-authored many books and scientific articles, including Applied Anatomy and Physiology of Yoga, which is the textbook for 2 courses they teach at RMIT University in Melbourne, Australia. Currently, Simon conducts intensive training courses in India, Bali, Europe, and Australia. He also teaches many online courses on the applications of posture, movement, and breathing for fitness, internal health, well-being, and longevity. Welcome, Simon. I'm so happy that you're here with us today.
Thank you for the lovely introduction. That's very humbling, actually. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm thrilled to talk to you, and I love your work.
Oh, well, thank you. I love your work, and I'm super excited to talk about the work that you do and you sharing your wisdom with us. And I mean, all of the insights and the masters and the teachers and the work that you've done in your life. So this summit's about trusting after trauma and finding freedom after narcissistic abuse. So what do you think what are the most important things to deal with that issue of finding freedom after narcissistic abuse?
It's a very big topic, but I'm someone who's not been trained officially as a psychologist, but I'm someone who's had lots of experience with people who suffer from exactly these conditions. And so what I think is the most important thing to address is their lack of self-worth, this sensation that they always have to be pleasing the person who's narcissistically abusing them, the idea that they are going to be always oscillating between being hyper aroused or hypo aroused. They're going to be always oscillating between being in a stressful state where they're fully in flight or fight as to how they're going to be treated by the person who's abusing them, constantly trying to please them, trying to get affirmation that what they're doing is okay, and also oscillating between that and this state of almost a state of freeze, where they're in a state of complete lack of acknowledgement of their own feelings. And so to address just those things, obviously it's a very complex issue, but to address these things physically, because that's my interest, I've got a few different ideas. Obviously, these people can be helped if you talk to them and if you give them psychological tools. But what I've found is that for almost every mental condition, we could call it, there is simple things you can do with the way you move, the way you hold various postures, the way you address simple things like breathing. And these things can help you regulate your nervous system and also encourage healthy blood flow. Because I think the two most important things we need to do physiologically is to feel like we're energized. And with energy, you have the possibility to deal with anything. If you have no energy, then everything will seem traumatizing. So to give people some energy is useful. But the way most people use things like posture movement and breathing in the form of exercise, most people's exercise actually causes stress. And so a person who's energized can deal with problems better, but a person who's stressed will often get problems. So we also need to address people's sense of hyper arousal and stress and bring them out of stress to what we could call a more balanced, parasympathetically dominant state. And that parasympathetic dominant state is the one where emotionally they're going to feel safe, connected, loved, peaceful. And that's a much better place to address their own needs and also the person who is abusing them if they choose to remain with that person. Like if you look online, what's the best way to help someone recover from narcissistic abuse is just to get away from the narcissistic person. But not everyone can do that. Sometimes you're in long-term relationships with them. So I think the two most important things that I can help with, and I'd like to give some suggestions, are to get people's physiology in a state where they feel energized but calm. And so if I say that technically, I'd say to enhance the function of blood flow and the circulatory function of the body. So blood flows very easily through the body, but without making your heart race. Because most people get blood flowing by getting their heart rate up. But if you get the heart rate up, that actually is something which the body perceives to be a stressful state. So exercise is good because it gives you energy, but it makes you stressed. Now, relaxation is very important, but most people's methods of relaxing just make them sleepy and they don't get energy. So this fusion between the benefits of exercise and the benefits of what most people do as meditation or relaxation or even sleep, if you can fuse those things together, then you have a recipe, not just to feel mentally better about pretty much everything, but also physiologically, the body will heal much better. So your joints will feel pain-free. Your immune, digestive, reproductive systems, those major organs for health, happiness, and longevity, will function better if you're in a state of parasympathetic dominance, where the body doesn't feel any external threat, and also a state where energy is flowing very easily through the body. And so these two things together are what I try and teach and address. And what I like to say is a little bit more of a, people might say that sounds very hippie. And I say what we need to do is share good energy and loving information inside our bodies as a model for how we deal with the world. Because invariably, you need to first deal with yourself. You can't help other people unless you first address yourself. And a person who's, being a victim, if you like, of a narcissistic abuser is either going to get away from that relationship or address the relationship they're in. But they can't deal with the person who's abusing them unless they deal with themselves. So what they need to do is share good energy and loving information inside themselves. And that technically we could call enhancing blood flow while maintaining a state of parasympathetic dominance. And then once they've got that in themselves, they're much more able to respond to the potential abuse that a person might give them. A narcissistic abuser might, for example, be constantly looking for praise and then constantly criticizing the person who's, in their life. And that can feel very horrible. So it's important that a person who is trying to get away from this situation feels very complete with them in themselves. They're not being affected by the people who are abusing them. So you have to feel independent. You have to feel whole inside yourself. You have to feel connected. And To do that, you've got to unblock the blockages which prevent connection. So if I say share good energy and loving information inside yourself, meaning very simply enhance blood flow without making the heart race, the first thing you have to do is to acknowledge that's the purpose of your personal practice. Because I really encourage people, before addressing the psychological needs of this type of issue, to address themselves physically. And just make it so you feel energized but calm. And so what we need to do then is stop blocking good energy and loving information inside the body. Because without realizing it, many people hold themselves in a way which restricts blood flow and which actually causes stress. So the second step, after first acknowledging that your purpose is to move good energy inside your body, good energy and loving information inside your body, so you feel energized and loved, and then use that as a model for dealing with the world. The second step is to stop blocking good energy and loving information inside your body. And what blocks good energy and loving information inside your body, aka enhanced blood flow without the heart racing while feeling really relaxed, is 5 things. 1, too much tension in the body. Tense less. Stop holding so much rigidity and tension in the body. Number 2 is avoid strong stretching. Now, that might sound funny to people. I thought we have to get flexible. Yes, there are many things you can do to maintain mobility in your life, but strong stretching exercises can be a problem, and unbalanced stretching can be a problem. And the biggest unbalanced stretching that people do is sitting on chairs. Sitting on chairs, people don't think of it as stretching because they're so long time sitting in a chair. Most people, I think the stats are in the Western world, 5 to 15 hours of a day are kept sitting on chairs, buses, trains, cars, toilets, sitting for dinner. And so what happens is the back of your body becomes very lengthened around the hips and the front of the body becomes very compressed. This is a real problem because then when you stand up, you get compression in the back of your lower spine. You also get compression in the psoas, which restricts natural breathing, and it completely locks your internal organs. So avoid sitting on chairs and avoid overstretching in general. Then the third thing is overbreathing. Many people hyperventilate, they overbreathe. And some people will say to you, you should breathe more. You often hear this as a mantra in the world. You should breathe more. But actually, fit, healthy people hardly breathe at all. Someone who's sick will walk and they'll breathe a lot. Someone who's panicking, you can see them breathing into their chest. What we want for health, happiness, and longevity is to be like a person who is breathing the same way as you breathe in your deepest, most regenerative cycle, which is sleep, or like a meditative monk. And when you see someone who's really in meditation, you cannot see them breathe. The breath is so minimal, so inaudible, so effortless that it's invisible, inaudible breathing. And so many people will teach breathe more. Actually, it's better to breathe less. But I'll come to it a bit further. You need natural breathing. And natural breathing doesn't mean don't breathe at all, don't control the breath, but restore natural breathing. So I'll come to it more, but definitely don't overbreathe. The fourth thing is, after tense less, stretch less, breathe less, is to think less. Thinking is a process which can really be helpful if it's constructive, focused thinking. But often what happens is our mind is racing. And a person who is in panic, for example, who maybe is being abused by someone who's telling them you're doing the wrong thing, you need to do this more, you become racing in your thoughts. And so that racing thoughts actually becomes a stress inside your body. It restricts blood flow. You start to get less blood flow to the frontal lobes and go more into your reptilian brain. And so to think less, the best way of avoiding this 100 monkeys chattering in the brain is to focus on one thing. And the things that I'll suggest people to focus on is generally their body. Find a way of making your body feel energized but calm. And these are the simple tools that I'll offer. Because if you just are in a state of stress and you focus on a couple of simple things and just maintain that internal focus, then you stop overthinking. So I'll say tense less, stretch less, breathe less, think less. And the final one is eat less. Because the more you eat, the more you restrict healthy blood flow inside your body, and it actually acts as a stressor inside the body as well. So that's not something which you can just tell people eat less, but you'll find that if you adopt the techniques that I offer and share, then most people find they're never as hungry. You don't have the need for so much food.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my program then. First thing is have the aim to share good energy and loving information inside yourself, which means encouraging healthy blood flow while keeping relaxed. Second thing is stop blocking healthy blood flow and loving information inside your body. Tense less, stretch less, breathe less, think less, eat less. Then the third thing is to encourage the flow of good energy and loving information inside your body. And for that, it's important to know that the heart is not the only thing that pumps blood through your body. There are 11 other main pumps of blood in the body, which a healthy athlete will use without even knowing about them. But these are the things that I try to encourage people to use. Just the knowledge that these exist is already enough, because most people associate encouraging blood flow with getting your heart rate up. And you hear this often. You've got to get your heart rate up, got to get your heart rate up. No, we don't need more cardio. We need a better cardiovascular nervous system. And as we were discussing before we went on air, I'm from Australia. Australia is sports obsessed, and we have very good physiotherapy in Australia. And one of the things that went out from Australia, I believe, was the abbreviation of cardiovascular to cardio. And so many people around the world talk about, I've got to do some cardio. But cardio is an abbreviation for cardiovascular system. And what you need for a healthy cardiovascular system is not to get the heart rate up, is to keep your heart rate low while encouraging the flow of blood. That's healthy. A high heart rate is just a stressed heart. So one of the key principles and the short time that we've got that I'd like to share with you that maybe we could even try a bit of is the idea that breathing is often thought to be the link between body and mind. And when you breathe properly, your mind will re-regulate, you'll get better energy, you'll get better calmness. But actually, the problem is that as soon as you tell someone to focus on their breathing, they'll breathe more. Like if I ask you and everyone here, just observe your natural breathing. And as soon as you start observing it, you start to breathe either more than normal or you hold your breath. It's very difficult for the average person to focus on their breathing and actually not change it in a negative way. So a better choice, rather than focusing on breathing, is to focus on relaxing key places in your body. And the key places I'm going to ask you to relax, I call bridges between your conscious and the unconscious. Because the thing about breathing that makes it the bridge between your conscious and your unconscious, or the link between body and mind, as many people purport breathing to be, is not the fact that air is coming in and out, but rather that the diaphragm, your main muscle of breathing, when you breathe into your abdomen, deep into your lower belly, and your lower back and your pelvic floor, that muscle is a muscle you can control consciously when we think about it, or you can breathe into your abdomen. But in your deepest, most regenerative cycle of sleep, it works by itself. It's a very special place in the body. It's a place which you have control consciously and unconsciously, and that's what makes it a bridge. But the most wonderful thing about this knowledge is that there are 11 other places in the body which have the same capacity for dual control. And so I'll go through these in 6 main groups, but just to give you an idea of what I mean by this, you and anyone watching this could try, make some saliva. Make some saliva. Chew a little bit, swallow it. We can do that. We can do that consciously, right? You can't do it when you're stressed as easily, but you can try. The thing is, if you're really stressed, you don't allow yourself to make saliva. But if you make saliva, you help de-stress yourself. But the funny thing is, if you imagine the nicest food you've ever had, it sometimes makes saliva come. Certainly when you see real food, if you see real food in front of your face and you can smell it and you can see it and you know you're about to taste it, everyone starts to salivate. But the thing about that is that it doesn't even have to be real food, because if anyone would like to try a simple visualization exercise, close your eyes and in your mind's eye, see your most favorite food. Don't use your hands, but with your imaginary mind's hands, pick up the imaginary favorite food. And don't use your real body, but in your imaginary mind mouth, open your imaginary mind mouth and put the imaginary food into your imaginary mouth. And without actually moving your jaw, taste the imaginary food, smell the imaginary food. And then often what happens if you open your eyes, that exercise, if you continue for a few moments, you start to get saliva, your mouth gets wet. And so in other words, it's not really about the environment that will change the expression of your ability to salivate. It's about your perception of the environment. One of my favorite people in the world, one of my mentors is Dr. Bruce Lipton, who wrote a wonderful book called The Biology of Belief, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And if anyone hasn't read it, I'd recommend it. And this idea that we are not so much regulating our genetics and the control of our enzymes and our nervous system by the environment, but rather what we perceive the environment to be. Mm-hmm. And so this wonderful thing means that it doesn't matter what's happening on the outside. You don't have to respond to a person shouting at you, abusing at you. You've just got to feel loved inside your body. And your own perception of yourself is more important than someone else's attitude to you. Mm-hmm. And so when we're doing this exercise of connecting with the bridges between your conscious and your unconscious, one of the things that's really useful is to create saliva, because creating saliva is something you can do consciously and unconsciously. And so you regulate your nervous system and you can reset your nervous system doing this. Another one which people could relate to perhaps is your eyes. Blink for a moment, blink. And when you blink, that's something you can do consciously. But if someone were to come up to you very close and slap in front of your face, you blink instantly. In other words, blinking is a reflex which can be conscious or unconscious. Making saliva is also conscious and unconscious. Moving your eyes also is conscious or unconscious. Like when someone is asleep, their inner eyes roll up and their eyes go white. You open the eyes of someone who's asleep, you only see white. So that ability to roll your eyes right up high is something which is unconscious, but also conscious. So try moving your eyes. Move your eyes up, down, left, right. Often people who discuss ergonomics will say that someone who's seated at a computer desk all day will get very stressed just because their eyes never move. So moving your eyes can relieve stress, but it's also a bridge between conscious and unconscious. Also, you see people who are very stressed have very tense jaws, very tense lips. So move the lips, move your jaw, because these are also bridges between your conscious and your unconscious. So I've discussed the face, and in a moment I'll call the face just one thing. Make saliva, move your jaw, move your lips, open and close your eyes, move your eyes up, down, left, right in circles. But then also other places which have dual control include the three places of the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor front at the urethra, the pelvic floor back at your anal sphincter, and the pelvic floor in the middle, the perineum, which is slightly different for men and women, obviously. But relax your pelvic floor. Now, I can invite you, Pi, and anyone watching, just focus on your pelvic floor for a moment. Can you relax it a little bit without anything falling out? And almost everyone will say, actually, I'm holding my pelvic floor tighter than I need to be. And so this actually causes stress. So relaxing the pelvic floor, you see, we're conditioned to think that you should actually tighten your pelvic floor because why? Pelvic floor tightness became an issue in the last 20, 30 years because it was realized that many women, for example, and older people, women after childbirth and older incontinent people were having problems with things falling out of the pelvic floor region after childbirth or when you get old. So physiotherapists taught people who are dysfunctional and sick to tighten the pelvic floor. But I say to my students, if you stand up and nothing falls out of your pelvic floor, maybe you don't need to tighten it so much. And if right now, whatever you're doing, you can relax the pelvic floor and nothing detrimental happens, maybe that pelvic floor tightness was unnecessary. And in fact, if people have pelvic floor too tight, well, in our society, there's names for people like that, and they're not nice names.
That's
So
true.
my suggestion, it's true. My suggestion is relax your pelvic floor more. And then the other one in the world is this obsession with having a tight abdomen. Now, most people don't realize, but there's many different ways of tightening the abdomen. But the most important way to tighten the abdomen in everyday life is to make sure you can still breathe into your abdomen. And that's a bit longer a discussion that I can say, but suffice to say that when you inhale, you want to breathe in a way where it is feeling like the inhalation is low. Low is what, when people say take a deep breath, people misunderstand it. You say to someone, take a deep breath, you often see them lifting their chest. But understand that deep breathing is often misunderstood. And I often use the example of if you stood in a swimming pool and the swimming pool water came up to your nose and someone said, breathe deeply. Deeply is not your chest. That's shallow in the water. Deep would be deep in the water, which is closer to your pelvic floor. In fact, a master could breathe into their feet. And what we want to feel is natural breathing. The breathing we do in our most regenerative cycle of sleep actually begins not in your chest. It's got to begin in the pelvic floor, in your lower back, in your lower abdomen. And so what we want to feel is that happening. So I could invite people maybe to just, I'll stand up so you can see my abdomen. If I put my fingers in the lower abdomen just here, so there's my pubic bone, and there's my lower abdomen. So put your fingers in your lower abdomen. Just go in as deep as you comfortably can. And then breathe in. And when you breathe in, it should feel like a balloon is expanding in your lower abdomen. So just try that. As you inhale, if you're relaxed, the lower abdomen should expand gently when you breathe in. You want to feel that's always available to you, whether the abdomen is hard or soft. But now, just try yourself, anyone watching, tighten your pelvic floor. Tighten your pelvic floor, feel your lower abdomen, and now try and breathe into your lower abdomen and notice if the breath went higher up, if there's less expansion in the lower abdomen. That's stress. So now relax the pelvic floor, even slightly expand it, like about to go to the toilet, but not. And then with your pelvic floor relaxed and even expanded, now breathe into the lower abdomen and notice the breath goes lower. You feel calmer and more relaxed. This is a clue. The pelvic floor is a bridge between conscious and unconscious. An unnecessary tensing of that region, which we're all consciously doing, is going to add to stress and it blocks blood flow. Now, I've given you a couple of main examples, but there's a couple of other important ones, and they include the neck. Often if the neck's held tense, you're going to cause stress. The other is the connection between your fingertips and your shoulders. It's good to move them, free them up. And the connection between your pelvis and your feet. So what I'll give you is a simple exercise that we can all do, and it can be done in any posture, even while you're moving. It can be done seated at your desk. And that's what I'll ask us maybe all to do now. If anyone wants to try this, let's all do it. I recommend doing it either seated or standing. And I've got not much room here, but I'm just going to stand a little bit here. And so I'm actually bending my knees a little bit. And take your fingers so they're lengthened. Now, you don't have to lift them this high. For most people, it's better if you rest your hands on your knees. So rest your hands on your knees, and with your hands rested on knees, then there's something to rest on. So rest them on something or let them hang by the side of your body. And then with your fingers lengthened, they don't have to be high. Now gently move them. So when I say move them, don't just wiggle them, have them lengthened and make them move like the fronds of a sea anemone, like sea grass moving underwater. So the tips of the fingers are lengthened. This will reset your nervous system and it starts to move blood. You may start to feel warmer within a few moments. So do that first with your hands by the side or resting on your hips, and then put that on hold. And then the second place is your shoulders. So move your shoulders apart and then just gently roll them. Gently roll them, not to stretch. Like with me, I could bring my shoulders much higher, but I'm not actually stretching them. I'm just checking that they're free. You see, any mental discomfort is often made worse if you restrict freedom. We all want freedom. So freedom in our body is expressed in our mind. So freeing up your shoulders is important. So just let the shoulders roll. Very gently, you could roll them forward, you could roll them backward, you could roll them like a bicycle pedaling backwards or a bicycle pedaling forwards. And as you're doing it, think, relax your shoulders. And what you start noticing is your body starts to warm up and you feel more relaxed. So put that on hold now. The third place is the neck. So now with your neck, and I'll turn sideways, check your neck is lengthened. So bring your head down, your neck back, lengthen the back of the neck. Move your throat forward, your chin up, lengthen the front of the neck. And then make your head, your chin go down, in, up, forward, down, in, up, forward. Not much, just a little bit. So you may be moving your neck maybe 1 or 2 centimeters, even not as much as me, but certainly not so much to stretch. Don't stretch, just gentle movement of the neck. So it feels completely peaceful, calm. And you could also do it like, imagine you're drawing a little infinity sign. So you could take your chin or your throat and move in a little infinity sign up to one side, down on that side, up to the opposite side, down. And so you're moving it a little bit and you're freeing. So think neck relaxed, neck is free. And that will also reset the nervous system, bring better blood flow to the brain, but it won't increase heart rate. And then the next place is your pelvic floor. So with your pelvic floor, relax it completely and now move your pelvis. So if you're standing, you could actually move your whole pelvis in a little circle, forward and down, backward and up, or you could go backward and down, forward and up, or you could maybe move your whole pelvis in a little figure 8, like someone doing some salsa or some belly dancing. And if you're seated, you can maybe make your pubic bone make a little circle on the chair that you're on. You could go clockwise or anti-clockwise. You could do a little figure 8. It doesn't have to be much. Just free up your pelvic floor, relax it, and move your pelvis. Then the fifth one is, can you breathe naturally? So when you breathe naturally, I said to you already, you should feel the inhalation in your lower belly, but you should also feel it in your lower back. So many people, when they stand, are actually standing so straight that their back arches. And I'll suggest that when you stand, bend the knees a little bit so you drop your sitting bones down like a weight on a string, which is your spine, and then your lower back lengthens. And then also it relieves lower back pain, but also then when you breathe in, you're not just breathing into your lower belly. You should feel that when you inhale, you're feeling the breath in your lower back as well. And that will compensate for the effects of seated postures, because standing is not good if you lock your knees, because you squash your lower back and you restrict the diaphragm. But if you sit, it's easier to be more relaxed seated, but you can mimic that by just standing with your knees slightly bent. If you're, say, waiting at the checkout for when you buy food at the supermarket, you're sometimes standing for ages, bend your knees a little bit. Drop your sitting bones. Let them hang down like a weight on a string, which is the spine. Move your pelvis. Round out your lower back and inhale occasionally to the lower back. And don't think you're not inhaling to get more air. You're inhaling to reset the nervous system and making the diaphragm periodically just check it can work normally. That's what makes it the bridge between conscious and unconscious. Not to take more air, just to check that your diaphragm is actually functional. Because if you're tightening your pelvic floor, if you're inappropriately tightening the abdomen, you won't be able to breathe there and you'll go straight into chest, stressful over-breathing. Then the last one is the face. Can we do this all in one go? I'll give you 6 places to relax. So I'll invite people either to stand with their knees slightly bent, or sit with their hands on their knees, or stand with the hands by the side or out in front, and lengthen and relax. And I'm going to keep my hands up high so you can see them, but you don't need to. And then as we're doing this, keep your eyes open at the beginning. And then if you want to, you can do it with your eyes shut so you can see. So I'll go, first of all, aim is to move good energy and loving information inside the body by enhancing blood flow without making the heart race, while being completely relaxed. So 6 places, which are 6 groups of regions in the body which are like bridges between your conscious and your unconscious. We can do all 6 separately or all 6 together with time. So first one is your fingertips. Lengthen your fingers and check the fingers can move. Keep doing that if you wish, or put it on hold. And the second one is your shoulders. Move your shoulders apart and check your shoulders can gently roll so they feel free. Put that on hold if you wish, or keep doing it. And the third one is the neck. Lengthen your neck and check your neck is free. It can either roll forward or backward or like a little figure 8. Lengthen your neck. Check the neck can move and it's free and relaxed. Fourth one, relax your pelvic floor and check the pelvis can move, either rolling forward or backward, or if you're seated, you might make a little circle with your pubic bone, clockwise or anti-clockwise. And fifth one, lengthen your lower back. If you're standing, just bend the knees a little bit, drop your hips, move the top of your hips slightly back, and gently breathe into your abdomen. Or you don't even have to breathe. You might just gently expand and gently massage the abdomen. Could even be done with the hands, but I roll my abdomen sometimes. But check that when you breathe, breathing is like when you're asleep. It's low inhale, passive exhale. There's not much of it. Sixth one, your face. So now relax your face. Make saliva. Move your jaw. Gentle, not to stretch the jaw, just gentle movement. Move your lips, gentle movement. Gently open and close your eyes, not even fully, just half open, like when you're waking from a deep sleep. Half closed, as if about to go to sleep, like a very slow motion half blink. And that resets the nervous system. And then make your eyes move around an imaginary clock face. Take your eyes up to 12 o'clock, then across to one side, down to 6 o'clock, across to the opposite side. Go round the clock, either clockwise or anti-clockwise, maybe 3 or 4 times. And then to change direction, go to 12 o'clock, drop to 6 o'clock, and go the opposite direction. So whenever you change directions in any of the movements, don't make a jarring sudden stop. Change directions by making a little infinity sign in the middle, a little yin-yang symbol. Go from 12 to 6, change direction, making a little figure 8 or infinity. And then as you're doing it, go back to your saliva. Make saliva. You love yummy food. It's a good thing to think about. Move your jaw like eating the yummy food. Move your lips like kissing and smiling. These are the things we enjoy in life. Kiss, smile. I say to my students, practice this on buses and trains. Lips, jaw, kiss, smile. And then open and close your eyes. You like discos, don't you? It's like a disco. And then make your inner eyes roll. And fingers, one more time, fingers can move. Shoulders can roll, neck is free, pelvic floor relaxed, pelvis can move, back lengthened, abdomen can roll or breathe very little amounts, and then face soft, lips, eyes, and then just open your eyes and see if that made you feel a little bit warmer, because it makes blood flow. And did it reset the nervous system? Usually people will find they calm down. And I've taken people who are completely in trauma, fully panicking, and you just get them to connect with these places and they instantly calm down. It's a really useful technique, and you can do this in any posture. You can do it while you're walking. The thing is, tense less, stretch less, breathe less, think less, but make the energy move. And what helps you make the energy move is unblock the blockages, tense less, stretch less, and make the energy move by moving in smooth patterns. Don't lock your core, move from your core. Don't breathe more, but breathe naturally from your core. Your core, incidentally, is not a bunch of muscles. Your core is your enteric nervous system. It's what they call the gut brain. And it's located in that region where natural breath is supposed to start from, between your lower back, your lower abdomen, your pelvic floor. Connect your thinking brain in your head with your gut brain. Move from your core, breathe from your core. And then you stop rationalizing what someone's doing to you and you start to more intuit, get in touch with your own feelings. Because people who are being abused by a narcissistic abuser often are not in touch with their own feelings. They're often disconnected.
Yeah.
And so this helps you connect with yourself. And they're often also oscillating between a stressful state and a complete state of freeze and locked, no emotions. So the exercise I'm giving you is a beginning to reconnect with your own emotions and to get a bit of energy to deal with what's going on, and also de-stress you when you're hyper vigilant, to arouse you when you're hypo vigilant, and it brings you back from that flight or fight place or that freeze place, and brings you back to that beautiful that window in the middle, which is where we can function properly and deal with the stresses of our life, which might be someone who's abusing us due to their own narcissistic problems, but it can be any. This can help you in any situation.
Yeah. Wow. You just blew my mind. And I feel very relaxed and energized. So thank you so much. That was so interesting, you leading us through those exercises, because I noticed so many places in my body that I'm holding tensely. So, and I wasn't even aware of it. So what a gift you've given me today.
Oh, bless you. I think we're all like this. So, like I used to teach a lot of what now you think of as modern yoga. But in the last 25 years, I've really realized that most people are actually going to cause dysfunction by trying to do what most people do in modern yoga classes. They're often overstretching and overtensing and overbreathing. So what I teach is very gentle reconnect. And what we want is to become into a meditative state. And the meditative state is not sitting down doing nothing. It's feeling connected with your blood flowing. So the first time I saw someone meditating was a Tibetan monk sitting naked in the snow. And someone said, he's meditating. And I went, that looks difficult, because meditation's not just closing your eyes and being still. You have to be energized but calm, which means you have to sit naked in the snow to prove it. Because obviously naked in the snow is cold, but if you've got blood flowing, you don't feel cold. Someone with good circulation never feels cold, never feels hot, and you always feel energized. But if the heart's not racing, you feel calm. And this makes you, it's a recipe for dealing with anything in life, and
Beautiful.
helps you connect. I'm so happy you responded to that. Thank you for asking me to share this.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing. And you have even more to share, don't you? You have a free gift to offer our viewers. Can you tell us about that?
Well, what I've offered in my free gift, if people just go and get it, is to give you exercises like I've given you then, and also the possibility of doing it in different positions. So, for example, I've got some simple spinal movements where, rather than just doing it just standing neutral like we were doing it, we can also do it with the spine fully lengthened, maybe with the arms up, or fully bending forward, or bending backward, or bending sideways, twisting. And these are really good positions because we need to move our spine. And when your spine moves, you become pain-free. A person who's not experiencing happiness in their life will usually be made less happy if they're painful, but more happy if there's no pain. So what I can offer you is relief from physical pain, also relief from joint pain. And I've got, I think, a couple of things in the free gift, video links to a spinal movements practice where we're incorporating the exercise I just gave you, and also some joint movements, which go further into what I was doing, and also a simple breathing exercise as well. There's about 5 or 6 links, I think, in the gift that I'm giving, with some simple verbal instructions and some written instructions and some visual practices. And I've got lots more online. And if you get a chance, I mean, anyone watching, I travel the world. For 3 years I didn't travel, but I've done now 3 trips to Europe this year. I was in the United States in 2019 before the world shut down. I think I'm going back to the United States next year, maybe South America as well. And I've got 4 overseas trips planned already, including, ones to Asia, which I'm doing. I go to India in March next year. I'm going to China, Thailand, and Sri Lanka next month, and then I've got to go to Europe in the middle of next year. So maybe if people go onto my page, they can find my events, and I'd love to meet you in person. But otherwise, I have so many online courses, and I'm really happy to share a bunch of free stuff. And I have a YouTube channel with my name, and there's lots of stuff you can do. This is information everyone should be taught at school, I think. So I'm really happy to share it. You can write to me, anyone who wants to. My details will be available here. You can also find me on Instagram, Simon Synergy on Instagram, but my full name will find me on Facebook, or write to me and I'll send you my phone number. I'll ring you. We'll talk.
Wow, that is very generous of you. Thank you, Simon. And I want to encourage everybody to click on the links that we provided for Simon to connect with him and his website and his free gift. Make sure that you sign up for that and get a hold of that, because that's a valuable resource that you can use throughout your life. That's going to help you to feel better in all kinds of ways and recover from narcissistic abuse. So thank you, Simon, so much for being here. I appreciate you so much.
You too, Pi. Thank you very much for inviting me. I love your work and what you're doing and what you're sharing with people. Thank you for helping so many people, and really a pleasure and an honor to work with you. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. And thank you for all of the people that you're helping and supporting as well. And I want to thank all of you, everybody who is here today, joining us for Trusting After Trauma, season number 5, and watching this video. And we hope that you are enjoying this journey with our experts on how we can find freedom after narcissistic abuse and heal our body, mind, and spirit to live joyful, authentic lives.